And let's wrap up the 10th chapter of The Whispering Mountain by Joan Aiken. There was a weird last recording as there was a misprint in the book, so you'll notice I read a paragraph twice over, and then at the end, I kind of lost my train of thought. This is, I'm recording this on December 1st of 2018, and I live in Seattle, and there was just an earthquake in Anchorage, and if you are watching this in the near future and know your history, all around the Pacific Rim, there have been a lot of earthquakes lately in the last couple of years, and we here in Washington State have been largely spared for close to 15 years from an earthquake, and I just feel like we're due, and I felt something shake. Anyway, let's get back into the story. The Seljuk is in the caravan with Tom Dando and Erebus, and he turns out not to be such a bad guy, and it turns out that even though Tom Dando was writing that poem, he was actually paying attention to the things Erebus was telling him, and we're finding out that Brother Ianto and the Harp of Terra 2 actually are somewhat connected.
Fancy that! How do you come to know such a thing, Dada?
Read it in a poem I did, Fa.
But Hachu, in that case, Brother Ianto's life is not worth a twopenny pinch of snuff up in that nasty place,
Erebus exclaimed in great distress.
And what about the poor old gentleman, Mr. Hughes? Very strong in his notion that the harp should go to its right owner. Owen said he was, and a brisk tongue he has, I am thinking. He might easily give offence to Lord Malin, and oh, sir, was his grandson there? A boy my age, very thin with him, and black hair and a short-sighted look?
I am not sure, my dear young friend, the Seljuk said apologetically. I did not view a spy lay eyes on the arrival of Mr. Hughes, but only listened to Lord Malin's conversation with him through the door, and my word, good gracious gazooks! They sounded in a huff, in a ferment of high dudgeon. And I do not believe most of these persons have left the castle yet. I believe they are clapped up there in durance vile.
Da, said Erebus, standing up resolutely. Do something about this we must.
Indeed, I am thinking so too, agreed Tom. But what do you suggest, my little one?
You must go fetch the Prince of Wales, Dada. Time somebody gave that wicked Marquis his deserts, and Prince Dio is the only one with the power to do it.
Oh, possibly so, but where am I to find the old prince? Tom said, rather startled. Long way to London it is, look you.
If you hadn't been so deep buried in your poem these last days, Dada, you would have heard he is coming to visit his lordship for the boar hunting, talking of little else, the folk of Nant Agadao. When we were there, go back along the high road, and there is sure you are to meet him on the way, and then you must tell him to come after Lord Malin with the militia and put a stop to his nasty ways.
Right, you, said Tom, standing up and preparing to set forth at once. But now, what about those people up at the castle? Short in the temper, Lord Malin, so I am hearing. Suppose he takes a notion to toss them out of his bedroom window.
I do not think he will do that until he has the harp safe, said Erebus. But in any case, we shall go back to the castle.
We, said the Seljuk. Us? Right, you. The Seljuk's mouth fell open in dismay. Really, my dear young creature, juvenile miss, he protested. I am a lover of justice, verily, but is that wise or needful? If I were in my own country, with my Janzaris around about me, it would indeed be another kettle of fish, a horse of different colour. Here I am but a private citizen, in the primary place. How do you propose to enter? The Marquis, you know, has a rooted dislike of your charming sex. Do I apprehend to feelings of spite against the young lady by whom he was jilted, given the go-by, sent about his business when at a younger age?
I shall dress up in your servant's clothes, of course. Anyone could see he should not go out again tonight. He can go to bed in Dada's bunk, and Dad can drive the wagon toward Nant Agadao till he meets the prince.
My stars! The Seljuk was not at all happy about this scheme. But when Erebus was determined upon a course of action, other people usually found, in the end, that it was easiest to fall in with her plans. So, not long afterwards, the wagon set off for Nant Agadao, driven by Tom, pulled through the snowstorm by the valiant Galahad, with the Seljuk's servant, full of aconite, belladonna, hellebore, and Ipekanaha, sleeping comfortably inside under a mound of quilts. And the Seljuk, a twitter with apprehension, climbed, puffing up the steep hill to the castle, accompanied by Erebus, who had browned her face with walnut juice and dressed herself in her baddie's fur jacket and trousers, tucking her black hair inside his astrakhan fez. When they were halfway up the hill, a winged form came flapping heavily through the snowy dark and settled with a martyred croak upon Erebus's hat. There now, I was afraid he might do that. So cross he's been because I left him when... Guiltily she bit off her words and addressed the bird. Why did you have to come out in all this nasty snow? Go home, bad hawk. But Hawk refused to budge.
You will have to tell the Marquis that you bought him in the village, I am afraid, sir. The Seljuk seemed to feel that Hawk was the least of their troubles. But what are we going to do when we get to the castle? Oh, switch the voices again. You will have to tell the Marquis that you bought him in the village, I'm afraid, sir. The Seljuk seemed to feel that Hawk was the least of their troubles. But what are we going to do when we get to the castle, my dear young colleague, partisan crony? What course do you propose we pursue? Oh, Erebus said airily, I have several plans. We shall have to see, but first we must discover whether all those people are still there. Oh, and Brother Ianto, Mr. Hughes. Thank goodness the Marquis doesn't know about the children of the pit, she thought to herself. And then we must make sure he doesn't harm them until Prince Deo arrives with Dada. Indeed, I see, replied the Seljuk rather faintly. It is quite simple, plain sailing, mere child's play, no great shakes, in fact. Right, just, said Erebus. And then they both had to concentrate on the steep slope, iced over now, and dangerously slippery. Just before they reached the iron-barred entrance gate, Hawk, evidently disliking the look of the place, rose from a baddie's fur hat and sheered off into the storm. That fowl has some intelligence in his brain-pan, noodle headpiece up a story, muttered the Seljuk gloomily, raising his hand to knock at the gate. 20 yards in the rear, a dark figure followed, unseen amid the driving snow, keeping exact pace with them as they approached the castle. And that is the end of Chapter 10.